The history of mutants is one of the most frequently altered over time. The oldest mutant in history is never truly the oldest, as an older one always seems to appear, followed by another, and so on. But currently, we can say that we have a chronological line that can point out the oldest among the mutant race. When the Celestials arrived on the planet, they experimented on the human race, resulting in the emergence of the X gene, and some mutants have been alive since that era. Number 1. Monkeys. Yes, monkeys. According to evolutionary theory, humanity did not descend from fish, so why couldn't mutants have come from monkeys? Joking aside, I placed them at the top of the list since we don't have an exact notion of when they emerged. A group of monkeys developed a mutation that was shared telepathy and caught the attention of Uranos, who in turn alerted Odin. Since Uranos and the Eternals were already on Earth, we know that these monkeys were born well after the Celestials' first experiment on Earth. And since Odin didn't seem to know what mutants were, this implies that it was before the next ones on the list, because Odin had a relationship with the third character I'll mention. They may not be characters of great importance, but they are mutants and worth mentioning, even if just out of curiosity. Number 2. Highwalker. Now moving on to the first rational mutant, we have Highwalker, who, interestingly, is also a telepath. He was a caveman with extremely weakened body, unable to move on his own. Fortunately, his mutation greatly helped him by granting him telepathy and telekinesis, which allowed him to communicate and move. He gathered a group of mutants who were rejected because of their appearance and took them in, serving as a sort of prehistoric Morlocks. Unfortunately, a group of humans hunting mutants found them, and nearly all were exterminated that day. Number 3. Lady Phoenix. Lady Phoenix never received a proper name, being called so because she was the first host of the Phoenix on Earth. She was abandoned by her tribe to die because of her red hair, something that was looked down upon by primitive humans. Thanks to her telepathy, she managed to survive and eventually joined Highwalker's group of mutants. These mutants were attacked and killed, but she survived and later became the host of the Phoenix entity, joining the Avengers of the 1 million BC. Although she's no longer alive, as the Phoenix itself doesn't usually grant immortality to its hosts, her essence lives within the entity. We know this because in modern times she spoke with Thor and claimed to be his mother, but this was an exaggeration on her part. She only helped with his birth. Number 4. Mutants of Okra. The first generation of mutants was born about 2 billion years ago, and included a particular mutant named Grove. Grove had the mutant power to transform into trees and similar things. After a series of battles involving even mutants from the future, he fully transformed and took the name Okra. As the planet evolved over time, Okra continued to grow and develop, eventually becoming a floating island in the ocean. When the Celestials arrived, they used Okra as a model to reshape planet Earth. Eventually, Okra became the home of the second generation of mutants, with Iska being the first born 10,000 years before the current events. Due to the island splitting in half and part of it going to a hellish dimension, its inhabitants did not age and are still alive, now back on Earth as it should have been from the beginning. Number 5. Seline. For many years, Seline was considered the oldest mutant in Marvel, until the publisher introduced Arakko and the mutants I've already mentioned in this video. She was born about 17,000 years ago, and lived in ancient Rome and New Rome founded in Brazil, and now resides with the mutants in Krakoa, or at least what remains of Krakoa, but that's a topic for another video. Seline is a highly skilled sorceress recognized even by Doctor Strange and the Eye of Agamotto, as having the power to assume the position of Sorcerer Supreme. With her sorcery, she claimed she could improve mutant resurrection on the island, and even became a goddess after millennia of attempts, but she ended up dying shortly thereafter due to the intervention of the X-Men. Thanks to her power of absorbing life energy, she is virtually immortal, as she only needs to feed to rejuvenate and maintain this process indefinitely. But do you know of a powerful artifact that never ages, even with the millennia of age? That's right, you're like. It will endure through all time and space, even to the farthest reaches of YouTube. Staying with this video and helping me bring more content to those who love comics and mutants. Number 6. Apocalypse. After Seline, Apocalypse was considered the oldest mutant, coming directly from ancient Egypt, but much has changed since then. It was said that Apocalypse was 5,000 years old. But thanks to the discovery of Arakko in current comics, we know that he lived much longer, being at least 10,000 years old. He led this civilization, which included the second generation of mutants, meaning there were many others before him, as I've already mentioned. He married the mutant Genesis, but he and his island were attacked by a horde of demons, splitting the island and trapping half in a hellish dimension. Apocalypse stayed behind with the mission of gathering an army capable of subjugating the demons when they returned. Thanks to his power to manipulate the molecules of his own body, he does not age and has super regeneration, along with many other powers. Using celestial technology, he built a chamber that allows him to sleep for entire decades and traverse time. Every time he woke up, he would find himself further in the future, ever encountering the teenage Thor and battling him. Number 7. Mrs. Sinister. Nathaniel Essex was born in Victorian England during the 19th century and was not only one of the greatest geniuses of his time, but also of all humanity. He was obsessed with Darwin's theory of evolution and discovered earlier than anyone else about mutants and how they were the next step in evolution. His work was so well done that it impressed Apocalypse, who, using his powers and technology, experimented on Essex, enhancing his abilities and stripping him of his empathy. This led to encounters with various X-Men who traveled through time, such as Cyclops and Gambit. Since he also does not age, he encountered Wolverine at the beginning of the 20th century, and Sebastian Shaw in 1915, the future founder of the Hellfire Club and responsible for awakening the Phoenix in Jean Grey. Number 8. Wolverine. Despite being quite old, Wolverine is almost a newborn compared to the mutants I mentioned earlier. James Howlett was born in 1880 in Canada, and thanks to his mutations remains alive to this day and will continue to live for much longer. He has witnessed major events in human history, including both world wars, and has encountered historical figures. He also met other mutants as old as he, who have powers of slowed aging, though they won't be included in this list. Two of them were Mystique and Sabretooth, along with other heroes who are not mutants, such as Captain America and Bucky, the future Winter Soldier. Number 9. Neore. Chronologically, Neore may not be the oldest, but he is certainly the first to be published and one of the oldest characters in Marvel alongside the original Human Torch. His father, a human named Leonard Mackenzie, was on an expedition in Alaska in 1920 when, through a series of events, he discovered the city of Atlantis. He met the city's princess. They fell in love and married, giving birth to Neore, the first human Atlantean hybrid. Thanks to the mutant gene inherited from his father's genetics, he became the first mutant Atlantean hybrid. He visited the surface during World War II and fought alongside Captain America to defeat the Axis powers. He eventually battled a telepath who erased his memories and spent a few decades wandering as a homeless person in the streets of New York, until he was found by the Fantastic Four. But these are all the main and oldest mutants in Marvel that I was able to list in this video. Drop a comment below about which one you like the most, or if there are any I missed from the list. Don't forget to leave a like and share so we can continue building the biggest nerd channel on YouTube together.